As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner, YouGov, offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. The one news story that we did get to, which I think was a fun one, let me just share this here. And I know you guys are probably going to want to get into it a little bit. But this one was FaZe Clan partners with DC to create limited edition comic book. And so basically the two parties that are going to collaborate on this limited edition comic book, it's going to have FaZe Clan content creators in the form of superheroes. And it's also going to have merch because it's FaZe Clan, obviously. So they're going to have hoodies and mouse pads and jerseys and stuff. So interesting sort of news piece. I'm curious if you guys want to discuss it, if anyone in the audience wants us to talk about it a little bit. But I thought it was an interesting story. And I'll just tease also the one question. I'll ask it to you guys. The one question I asked was, who's the bigger winner here, if there is one in your mind? Is it DC or is it FaZe?
Well, so I actually wasn't on the podcast this week, so this is one of the rare times when I can comment on the actual story. But I mean, like, I think this is, first of all, I had a question, which is, did anybody think this was a bad idea? Because I think it's a great idea. I think it's awesome, and I feel like pretty much everybody wins. I'm curious if anybody thought it was a bad. But the thing is, I think the big winner here is FaZe, honestly. Like, I find it difficult to see this another way. Because, yeah, sure, DC wins. They get some marketing arm and amp and, you know, nudge to their comics. And let's be honest, the comics industry is one that's being led by film today and not print media, right? So, you know, I'm sure that's nice for them. But I think it's FaZe here that it kind of does more to build their brand because it portrays their athletes as superheroes, which I think is really significant. And I think it also positions them for a new type of crossover and sponsorship deal that teams weren't doing. So it's potentially opened up a new media category for them. So I really like it. I think it's a huge win for FaZe.
Taylor thinks it's gotta be FaZe.
DC. I mean. But Jeff, I'm curious why you think FaZe, and then I'm
I think comment. William kind of what's he want to pull up Taylor's comment?
Yeah, so Taylor feels like DC. He says, I think DC because it shows that they have interest in esports like Marvel X Team Liquid. I mean, you could carry Taylor's argument, right, and say DC hasn't really been that competitive with Marvel, and they win bigger here.
I don't know. I see it as DC Comics is DC legitimizes FaZe more than I think that there's people like when we say who's the bigger winner here. What are we talking about? Eyeballs, dollars, revenue, legitimacy, brand. Like, I don't think there's very many people who are fans of FaZe. Like, I've never heard of
who gets
Batman.
more new fans. Does DC Comics get more new fans, or does FaZe get more new fans?
I mean, I'm not necessarily sure that's the way to look at it. Like, I don't know if anyone.
You asked me to pick which way to look at it, so I'm giving you one.
Okay, so then I would argue against the premise. Like, I don't think that's the way to look at it because I'm not sure, and because in that case, it's probably going to be FaZe, right? Because you're taking the audience, it's like a Venn diagram. Like, most people who are FaZe fans like are aware of DC Comic because it's just a smaller circle of people, right? So like it's.
So you think everyone who's a FaZe?
So I guess he gets it.
No, I give you that.
You're saying that everyone who's a FaZe Clan fan probably knows Batman already,
yes.
Right? Like, there's not.
Yes. Yeah, but I don't think what's going to happen here is there's going to be a DC fan who's like, I'm a fan of Batman and I've never heard of esports, I've never heard of FaZe, but now I'm going to become an esports fan. I think it's just legitimacy and engagement. It's a cool sponsorship. It's a cool partnership, and like it legitimizes FaZe's brand because DC is entrusting their brand with FaZe. So it just gives them a little bit of extra, you know, legitimacy and brand halo. I think that's all this is here. So the winner is FaZe, but I don't know how we define win, because I don't know if there's gonna be extra revenue or extra eyeballs or anything like that.
Well, I think you hit it on the head when you questioned the premise, which was like it just means something different depending on who's answering the question and what metric you're looking at. So I did really like Taylor's comment from chat, you know, about DC's interest in esports. I don't want to take too much of this time because I shared my opinion on the podcast, but I was with Taylor on that, and if you want the rest of my take, I guess listen to the show. And Dushin's take as well was quite interesting, and we all kind of had fun with this. But yeah.
Lindsay,
legitimacy, yeah, legitimacy was the exact word I was going to use to describe this. These legacy brands, they might not be great, and there might not be a great fan swap between these types of partnerships, but they're still stand-up legacy brands that a lot of people care about, and I do think that it helps FaZe look better.
Can I just make a point I didn't make on the podcast, and I'm curious what you guys think about this, which is only because I just thought about it. Superheroes to me, especially like a Batman. Yes, I know Batman's like he doesn't have like true superpowers, right? He's just kind of a normal guy that happens to have a lot of tech, right? Yeah, super rich. But in this comic book they make the FaZe clan members into superheroes, right? Is there some universe where this sort of cheapens the idea of a superhero if it feels too close to home? Do you know what I mean? Like if my neighbor can be like a superhero, is it like less to sort of dream about?
There have just been so many superhero plot lines and stories, and like if it were possible to cheapen the concept of heroes, I'm sure comic books has gone
LeBron
there.
James wouldn't be in Space Jam 2.
Yeah.
I think you're also describing like the origin story of every comic book. Like, isn't that the whole point? Is like anyone like right. Captain America was like a scrawny little dude. Like Spider-Man was like a tiny, you know, loser who got bit by a spider. Like you're literally describing the origin story of everything.
And had,
Okay. All right. Fair point.